Hey, welcome to Unperturbed, the podcast where high-achieving Black women come to take off their strong Black woman cape. You know, the one that keeps them people-pleasing, overgiving, and putting themselves dead last. Yeah, we're not doing that anymore. On Unperturbed, we're empowering you to put you first, unapologetically and boldly, so you can show up for yourself the same way you've been showing up for everyone else. This is where empty vessels get refilled. So look, go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel, share it with your sister friends who are running around with empty cups too, and then come kick it with us inside The Haven, our private Facebook community where we go even deeper. Trust me, you need this space. Head on over to enterthehaven.net to join us. All right, it's time for the best part. Let's get into it. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Unperturbed, the podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rhonda Alexander. And listen, we are burning capes. We are setting down the crowns. We are tapping into self. We are getting rid of this thing called the strong Black woman. We don't want it anymore. It's not working for us. We're moving on to something different. So I'm super excited that my friend and colleague, Theresa Noye, has joined me today on the podcast. Hey, Theresa.
Hey, Rhonda. Dr. Rhonda.
Welcome to Unperturbed, the podcast. I'm super excited. Theresa is the radical self-love coach. And I felt like she is probably one of the most appropriate voices for this podcast because of the work that she does and because of her perspective on self-love and the fact that she actually lives what she talks about. That's the part for me. You gotta walk the talk. So Theresa, welcome. Share with us a little bit about you. Introduce yourself to us, and then we're going to jump into this content.
I love that. I do live it.
You do?
Yeah. You know why? Because like a lot of us strong Black women, I fell apart at the seams.
Yeah.
So that's where it all started for me, that breakdown, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how I ended up doing what I do. I work with high-achieving Black women to practice radical self-love, which is something we have not been taught to do.
Yeah.
And if we do it, we're doing it because we're feeling guilty, or we feel like we don't have the time to do it, or we feel obligated to serve everyone else first before we take care of ourselves. So I work with Black women to reclaim their time and to let go of that pressure and to find that joy and to live in peace without guilt.
Yeah. That is a work. That is a work. I want to talk about why this work is so important, because you mentioned that you had a breakdown.
Yeah.
I had a similar breakdown.
Yeah.
And in those breakdowns, you know, you're kind of at that low point and you're like, how did I get here? A. And then B, how do I make sure I never end up here again? How can I walk a whole different path so that I'm not just getting up to put back on all the stuff that broke me down before?
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about why this work has been so important for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my breakdown started when I was working I have a son who was diagnosed with autism, and I ran a home program with him, 40 to 50 hours a week, every day, no holidays, for 6 years. So that entailed not only working with him, but supervising the volunteers that work with us. We have volunteers, marketing. It was a whole business. You could think of it like a whole business, right? Creating that for him. So I'm doing that. I'm also working full time, also traveling and doing ministry. I had a toddler at the time, and I was supporting my husband. Aren't you exhausted just hearing that?
That's a long list.
That's a long list. Long and I was exhausted.
Yeah.
But I was doing it with a smile.
Weren't you though? And
I was
you were everybody was like, she is so amazing.
So amazing. Oh my gosh, girl, I don't know how you do it. Oh yeah, God is my
It's
strength.
the goodness of the Lord.
Oh, that's right. Girl, you got it. You got it. And I'm melting inside.
Yeah.
I'm melting inside.
Yeah.
And so my hair started falling out. I developed digestive issues.
Wow.
And then I started plotting at night, staying up at night, figuring out what's the best way that I could leave my family with the least possible damage. That was my wake-up call. Like, girl,
yeah,
we got to do something here.
Right. Yeah. That's really drastic. Yeah.
That's really drastic, right?
Wake-up call.
My exit plan to get out of this was to leave everything. No, there's got to be a better way. So I started to look for ways. I went to therapy. I started leaning in more to church and prayer and things like that. But they didn't give me a lot of dramatic change. Therapy was good. Therapy was great. It helped me to go back to the past and recover. But afterwards, it was like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I started looking for other ways and practices and tools that I can maintain, because I started to get an understanding of what I was doing and the boundaries and the historical piece of why I felt obligated to do everything. And that's great to have all that information, but what's next? Like, how do I embody that? And that's really when it became a passion, because I noticed that there was this cycle where people would get change. We would experience some changes, some shifts where we can maintain, but still there wasn't ongoing, consistent transformation happening in their life. Practices, habits. How do you maintain that? Right. And that's where I felt the gap was. And I think that's really what's important, because I think we get to a place where we recognize what's going on and we change some things, but then we kind of sort of slip back.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like we need a system. That's what I do. I work with you basically to develop some new habits. I call them love habits, because we're all a sum total of our habits. Right. So learning some new habits and putting those practices in place that are very simple, that you can just do on autopilot again and again and again. So you embody it, and then you really start to see the changes in your life.
Right. I think so often Black women, particularly those of us who are in ministry, those of us who are believers and we are going to church, we're thinking like I'm going to go, I'm going to cry it out, I'm going to come home and it's all going to be better. And when you get home, you realize that Jesus didn't work it out the way you thought he was going to work it out.
If you let him. And I was letting him too. I was letting him.
and nothing was working out. And I think we get so disillusioned and so upset because we're expecting God to come in and make this change when it's really tied to what we are willing to do. And the changes that we are willing to make on a long term. I think we put so much stock into kind of this genie in the bottle idea of what God should do. We even sometimes will say, this must be what he wants for me. This must be, what I'm supposed to be going through right now. This is God's will. And make no mistake, there is suffering involved in the walk. I understand. We all have our own crosses to bear. I truly understand that. But I believe that when we are thinking about how we show up in terms of strength, what we're willing to carry, what we put on ourselves, some of the stuff that we're carrying has nothing to do with God. He's like, you won't let it go. I can't take it. I can't remove it because you're holding on to it with both fists.
Both fists.
And you won't release it. And our challenge has been letting go because we have to be in control. Letting go because we're afraid of what might happen if we do. So then we keep that superwoman cape on and we carry around our problems, their problems, all the things in the world that could possibly be at issue, and wonder why God isn't fixing it.
Amen. That's the truth. But you said so many things. One thing, and my mentors taught me this, there's a difference between pain and suffering. So yes, in life there is pain, but when we hold on to it, that's when it becomes the suffering, right?
Yeah.
So different. And even, the way that we are designed with our emotions, if you've ever read any of Jill Bolt Taylor's work, My Stroke of Insight, she talks about how, there is a 90-second loop with our feelings and our emotions. When we experience something, it cycles through our body 90 seconds. And then after that, anything that we're experiencing, we're holding on to it. So we're designed, yes, to feel pain, but not to hold on to it. That's the suffering.
Right.
But that is a cultural thing, especially for Black women, because we have created a society that expects us to give and give and give without acknowledging what we need. And, our mothers and grandmothers and great-grandmothers, that language, to be able to say how we felt and what we needed, that wasn't even heard of. And so that emotional language is missing. And because they didn't learn how to speak it, they didn't know how to ask themselves, what am I feeling? What do I need? And they didn't know how to teach their daughters how to honor their own feelings and needs, right?
Exactly.
And so we just keep perpetuating this up until now. So it really is deeply ingrained in the society that we're expected to be that spoke in the wheel, to be the martyr for everything. There's a culture of female martyrdom, right? And martyrs die. And it doesn't have to be like that. So now it's up to us to counter that culture and give ourselves permission to recognize what our needs are and to be able to articulate those needs, and then to be able to set those boundaries in place unapologetically so that we get what we need.
Absolutely. You touched on something that I actually wrote about in the book, about how strength was a different thing for our foremothers. Strength was survival.
Yes.
Strength, you didn't have the choice of showing emotion and talking about how you felt and saying I'm overwhelmed and saying I don't have the bandwidth. That wasn't your choice. From way, way back, it was stuff it down, do what you've got to do to live, and make sure that your people, your family and the people connected to you are able to stay with you. You're in survival mode all the time.
Yeah.
And then from there, like you said, it just got passed down to where our grandmothers and great grandmothers didn't get the choice of speaking about her needs, because her needs were making sure, her need, as they saw it, was to make sure that husband was taken care of, children were taken care of, had clothes, went to school, did the homework, and the food was on the table. They got their naps and their rest and their self-care whenever they could get it, if they ever got it.
If they ever got it.
But for them, strength wasn't necessarily a survival thing, but now their strength is carrying all of this on my back is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to hold my family together, even though my husband may be all over doing he may have families all over. But I'm supposed to be strong, and I'm supposed to hold my family together. I'm supposed to still show up as wife. I'm supposed to still do those things, even if my heart might be broken, because I know there's some other woman that's getting my husband's time, or there are things going on I can't even speak about. I've got to be strong for that. And so then we take it and say, oh, well, then that means strong means I don't ever talk about my feelings. Strong means whenever something happens that hurts me, I just box it up, put it back behind me, and I keep pushing forward. And I don't get a chance to express, I don't like it. I don't want to be a part of that. I don't have the capacity for that. That just doesn't work for me. No, we have culturally, as you have pointed out, been taught those aren't words we get to use.
Right.
And so we're carrying pain from our trauma, pain from betrayals and friendships that we lost and relationships that we lost, that we just said, I'll be all right, and move on. You might cry a day and then you get up the next day and you're like, I'm fine. Everything's fine. Let's move forward. Meanwhile, you're just piling on all of these things. And for us, I can't speak for other cultures because I'm not a part of any other. I just know in our culture, that's what was passed on to us.
That's what was passed on.
That's what we were taught. And now, particularly in this climate, Black women are looking around going, the heck, why are we doing this? I don't want to do this anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And so now we're on this quest. Everybody's like, oh, rest. We're taking the time off. We're taking a step back. Okay. But what are you going to do with that? And so that's what I want. That's my next question for you. When it comes to radical self-love in this climate where Black women are saying we're done showing up for everybody and feeling like no one shows up for us, giving all the time and never being replenished, right? It's that proverbial pouring from an empty vessel.
Yeah.
We now acknowledge, I'm tired of my vessel being empty.
Yeah. Yeah.
So from your perspective, how do we address where we are right now with self-love?
That's a great question. It reminds me of one time I was, pulling my hair out and I called my mom and I was like, Mom, I'm crying. She's like, what's wrong? I was like, I just wish somebody would take care of me the way I take care of everybody else.
Yes.
And she got really quiet and she got really stern and she said, well, it's not going to happen. So learn to take care of yourself.
Yes.
And I was like, I thought she was going to give me something fuzzy. She's like, no, learn to take care of yourself. That is an individualized process though, because first of all, taking care of yourself, the first thing that we have to do is recognize our magnificence and that we're worthy of being taken. We're worth that investment, taking the time to care for yourself. Because at a cellular level, because of everything we just talked about, the trauma and the legacy, et cetera, if we're honest, we don't see ourselves of worthy.
Yeah.
We don't see our magnificent. It's covered over by all of the achievement. That's why we go so hard. And we get all the degrees and the accolades and accomplishments. And then you go home and you still feel empty. And if I were to strip away everything that you have, what's left?
Some people would totally freak out.
It would freak out.
We go through that. Like when our kids leave home, and it's just us and we're like, who is this chick in the house? I don't know her because all I know is mom and, professional and entrepreneur and business.
Yes.
But when all of that gets silenced.
Right. What's left? So that it's really important to begin to peel back all of those things and just recognize, who am I without all of the things? And that comes back to recognizing I'm magnificent. And can you say that with your chest?
Right.
And can you embrace your magnificence? And then beginning to discover, what does that look like for you? What are the things that bring you joy? Because we've lost the joy. We do events, we have outings, and, we know how to have fun.
Yeah. We have equated fun with joy.
Yeah. But what are the things that bring you joy? And for me, that might be, sitting in nature. For you, that might be going and looking at water. For somebody else, it might be being, with a lot of people on a safari. I mean, you gotta right for yourself. What is that? But the point is identifying the things that bring you joy, independent of people. It can't be attached to a person. It can't be my kids will bring you joy, because your kids can get on your nerves and your kids might leave you. What brings you joy? You really have to, dial in and figure out what brings you joy. And then as you create that list of the things that bring you joy, give yourself permission to do those things on a regular basis.
Right.
Like, it's so important. We get so caught up in autopilot, we forget our joy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
I think people also have to remember that anything that is important to us, generally as professionals, as entrepreneurs, it goes on our calendar. It goes on our schedule. If we get to a place where we are intentional about our self-care and self-love. Are you there? I don't know what happened. You just froze. Uh-oh. So what I was saying was, when we decide that we are intentional about everything else, you're intentional about your meetings, your children's appointments, your appointments, things you've got to do, you put them on your calendar.
Right.
And so those things that are you investing in you have to go on your calendar. They have to be, it can't just be, I'll try to catch an hour, before the day is over. We all know you're not. You're going to, get in bed and go, oh man, I was supposed to, and you didn't. But it has to be really intentional, because I firmly believe, as your mother told you, this part of self-love, this process is our responsibility.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And so that's one piece, right? But that can become overwhelming too, like trying to schedule stuff for yourself. And you feel like, well, I'm checking all the boxes, but I'm still not feeling rested. I'm still not feeling rejuvenated, right? Because you're back to this list of things that you have to do.
Yeah.
So the other piece that is huge is the self-acceptance and the self-compassion. So living with this awareness of the conversation that we're having with ourselves, because we've taught ourselves to succeed from a place of driving yourself, get it together, girl, you got to do better, and saying all types of, quite honestly, mean things to ourselves to move ourselves forward. So learning how to change the conversations with yourself with a more loving and compassionate tone. So talk to yourself the way you would talk to some of your children. Well, some of us don't talk to our children too nicely, but that's a whole nother
thing. That's a whole other thing.
Again, a part of our conditioning.
Right.
Oh man. But
that's a whole sub-segment to the conversation.
For real. But just imagining if you could talk to yourself the way you wanted someone to talk to you.
Right.
And start to really talk to, like, I talk to myself. That's the first thing I do in the morning. I stand in front of the mirror for a good 15, 20 minutes and I say, girl, I love you. Look at you. And I'm looking at myself. I'm not pointing out bad wrinkles or whatever. I'm like, you are so beautiful. Look at you. Thank you so much. And I go throughout my body, like thanking my body for supporting me, thanking my knees for staying strong, thanking my heart for being, like, I go through a whole process of just thanking myself for supporting me and for, being with me on this journey and talking about how great you are, and how much I love you and how amazing you are. Like, I'm talking to myself with love. And when you do that on a regular basis, you're actually changing the pathways in your brain, right? So now you're not going to that self-loathing, self-loving.
Yeah.
I
love that. I told you, you walk the talk. You are the real deal. And I love that about you. I love your authenticity. And I love that you don't pretend that this hasn't been a journey. That you don't pretend that I woke up this ray of, loving sunshine and that's what I've always been, but that you share with us the journey from, how not loving you were to yourself, to discovering the key to really feeling fulfilled and feeling joy inside and being able to share that. But that's been a process for you. And
Yeah.
I appreciate that so much. I want people to know how they can get to know you more, how they can connect with you. And what do you have going on? I know you've got a retreat coming up.
I got a retreat
Yeah.
coming up. Yes, yes, yes.
Tell me about it.
Well, actually, it's a partnership with my partner, Leslie Freelo, and we have a community. It's called the Sisterhood Wind Down, and we bring high achieving Black women together. All you got to do is show up, and we take care of the rest. And
Love that.
self-love sessions and spa treatments and fun activities. And the beautiful thing about it is, sometimes you feel like you're the only one when you're in these spaces.
Yeah.
So it's a space we've created where you can just, similar to what you're doing with Haven, you can just come and just take off the mask and just be yourself. They come and they're like they knew each other all their lives. And yeah, so it's just a really special community. So
When is that?
in September. Yeah, in September. I'd love for you to come and be a part. And it's invitation only though. So we got to make sure that it's a good fit because
Right. Because everybody can't be in the house.
Everybody can't be in the house, right? Got to make sure, right? So
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Share with us how we can touch base with you. How can we get in touch with you after this?
I'm on all of the social media platforms at Theresa Noye. THERESA, N as in Nancy, OYE. I love what I'm building on YouTube right now. I started a sleep story.
I love the sleep stories, y'all. I love the sleep stories.
It's been so wonderful where I'm telling stories, bedtime stories about high achieving women, and all with the theme of self-love. It's really something special and unique.
It is. And I absolutely love it. I'm so glad you started it. And I am so glad, so thankful that you have graced Unperturbed, the podcast, today with me on this episode. Thank you so very, very much. Listen, you guys, I want you to go and find Theresa on all the platforms, but I especially want you to go and check out her YouTube. Listen to those sleep stories. They literally work. Listen to them when you're not trying to go to sleep if you want to hear the whole story. If you're trying to go to sleep, if you're laying in the bed, you're not going to make it past this soothing voice for like the first 3 minutes. You're done. That's it. You're out. So if you want to actually hear the story, listen to it while you're doing something else. Their stories are great, but they really do help you to unwind your brain and to relax and to rest. And so we thank you, Theresa, for that, for providing that to us. So go to her YouTube, subscribe, and share. Listen, this has been a really great episode. I thank you guys for joining us. Until next time, I'm Dr. Rhonda. It's been Unperturbed, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Hey, thanks for joining me for another powerful conversation. If that hit home for you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss what's coming next. And definitely share this with a sister friend so she can get in on this too. Now look, don't just stop here. Let's continue the conversation inside The Haven, my private Facebook community where we get even deeper and do the real work of shedding the strong Black woman mindset. This is a safe space I've curated just for us. Head on over to enterthehaven.net to join us today. Now, before you go, drop a comment and let me know what resonated with you the most, and I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, take care of you first. See you soon.